Hey guys, and welcome to episode 4 in the Python programming series. In this episode, we will learn about loops. So without any further delay, let's get right into the video. In abstract terms, loops are one of many concepts that make our code shorter and more efficient. Concepts like these are widely used in the field of software development because us programmers like to be efficiently lazy. Now that you know what lists are in abstract terms, let's look at how to use them in Python and their practical application. In this example, we have a list called fruits. Fruits contains apples, oranges, pears, and grapes. If we wanted to print all of these items, we would have to index them individually and have a separate print statement for every item. If we run this, you can see that it prints out all of the items: apples, oranges, pears, and grapes. However, if we added more items, we would have to have more print statements and the list would get longer. The way we are printing this is not the most efficient. One way we can make it better is by using a certain type of loop called a for loop. Now, the way a for loop works is you type for, and then you have what's called a placeholder variable here. So you can say fruit for fruit. So you type in for fruit in, and then say fruits, which is the list variable, and a colon. And if you click enter, you'll notice that it auto indents. Then if we type print fruit instead of fruits, when we run this, it'll print exactly the same as before: apples, oranges, pears, and grapes. However, if we took an item away, let's say we took away grapes, it would only print 3. And then if we add it back, it'll print all 4. This statement might look a little bit confusing, so let's break it down. Essentially, the way for loops work is a for loop goes through each item in the list and stores it in a variable that you specify at the beginning. In this case, it stores it in a variable called fruit. Now, we can access that fruit within the for loop within the indent, and in this case we're printing. So this type of method is called iteration. Basically, iteration is going through each element within a list, like so, and we get our desired output. Let's look at another example of how to use a for loop. In this example, we have 5 print statements, each of which are printing a number 1 through 5 respectively. However, this is once again not the most efficient way of doing it, as there's too many print statements, and if you wanted to print more than just 5 numbers, then you would have to add more print statements. And this type of code is inefficient, so let's rewrite it using a for loop. So in this case, we can say for number in, and then now notice we don't have a list. So what do? Well, there's a built-in Python function called range, and then you notice it takes it's the same as a print statement or as an input. It has parentheses, and in here, if we put 5 and then a colon and then print number, what this will do is range is an automatic list in Python. Well, it's actually a function that calls a list that has infinite amounts of numbers. So if we run this, number will go through and print the values of the numbers. So here we have 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then all we need to do if we want more numbers is increase this 5. Now, one thing you will notice is that it's not printing 1 through 5, it's printing 0 through 4. Well, that's because we're repeating this 5 times and counting, and it's printing 5 numbers. But remember that computers start counting from 0, so if we wanted to fix that, what we could do is add a 1 here and then a comma. Now what this will do is it will start on 1 and go till 5. However, if we run this, it'll still it changes from 0 to 1. It gets rid of the 0, which is good, but it only goes till 4. If we change this 5 to a 6, you'll notice that it prints all of these. Basically, the way that range functions work is the first number is inclusive, it includes it. The second number is exclusive, so it does not include it, because it does print 1, but it does not print 6. It goes until it sees 6. That is another example of a for loop without a list. In this example here, we have a variable called name. And what we want to do is continue to ask the user what their name is until they give the answer that we want. For this, we will need a new type of variable. This type of variable is called a while loop. The way it works is you say while, and then you have a condition. In this case, we'll say while our name is not equal to Daniel. And then we have a colon, and then we put our name here. Put our name variable here. However, we have to define it beforehand because it will only check a variable that already exists. This is where it is different from a for loop because you need to define the variable first. So now that we've typed that out, I can run this. It says, what is your name? If I put, let's say, Marcus, it'll continue to ask me what is my name. So then I can put James, and then it'll continue to ask me my name until I say Daniel, and then it'll end the program. This may be a little confusing at first, so let's break it down line by line. Basically, we have a variable called name, and we set it to James. And we have a while loop that will repeat whatever code is indented in here until this condition becomes false. Now, the condition that we have is that our name is not equal to Daniel. So every single time it'll run this code, and then it will check if our name is equal to Daniel. If our name is equal to Daniel, then we'll end the program. So what we do is, that's why we have this not equal to. This exclamation mark means not equal to. If we have while name is equal to Daniel, it'll immediately end the program because this condition is not true, so we won't run this. So that's why we have this not. So while it is not equal to, or another way we could do this is say while name and then put a not in front of it, and that might be easier for you guys to understand, is that while name is not equal to Daniel, we can say James, Charlie, and then once we enter Daniel, it'll end the program. Basically, the while loop will continue to execute indented code until the condition becomes false. Hopefully that makes sense. In this exercise, we have a list of numbers 1, 7, 6, 3, 9, 4, 11, and 43. And what we want to do is iterate through and go through each of these numbers, and if it finds the number 9, then it stops the program. How would we do this? Well, let's write a for loop. For number in numbers, colon, and then you can hit enter and it'll auto indent. Then we do the if statement like how we did before. If number is equal to 9, colon, and then it'll auto indent again so that we have 2 indents. Make sure when you type your next line you don't type it here because it won't be in line. You have to here and then type print this number, or I guess found a number that is, or I guess we can just say found a 9. But after that, this code does work. However, as if we wanted there to only be 1 9 and this list was longer, it would take longer and longer for this to finish. So instead what we could do is type break. Now what this does is if we didn't have it, and then let's say we had another 9, it would print found a 9 twice. However, if we added a break here, then notice it'll only do it once, because after it finds the first 9, it'll basically break out of this loop, and then it'll go here to whatever you have underneath. And if I just print end, it'll print end after it found a 9. However, if we remove this, it'll do that twice, and then once the entire for loop is finished, it'll print end. This code might look a little confusing, so let's go through it as we normally would. Basically, you're using a for loop and going through each of these numbers. You're iterating through, and you're checking if each number is equal to 9, which and if it isn't, you don't do anything. You go through to the next number. But when you find something that is equal to 9, you say found 9, and then you break out of the loop, and then it'll print end. That's how we have this. Similar to how you do breaks for loops, you can also do them for while loops. In this example, we have a while loop that is infinitely true, which is why we have the while true. And every time it goes through, it will ask the user to input their name. And if their name is James, it will end and break out of this while loop. So if we run this, enter name, I'll say Daniel, it'll keep going. I can go again and say Charlie, and it'll keep going and keep asking until I say James, which it will end the program. Now we are going to try a challenge problem. For this problem, you have to print the numbers 1 through 10, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, using a loop. Now, there are 2 solutions, because you can use a for loop or the while loop, and I will say that a while loop will be more challenging. So pause the video, see if you can figure it out, and then click play when you think you figured it out. Okay, I assume you've at least tried the problem. So here we do, if we're going to do a for loop, we do for number in range, and then we say 1 through 11, because we want to start on 1 and end on 10. The first number is inclusive and the second is not. enter, auto indents, and then print number. Now, if we run this, we can see it prints all our values 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, etc. all the way to 10. Great, but how do we do this with the while loop? Well, with the while loop, it's a little bit more tricky. So we start by declaring a variable number equal to 1, and we say while number is less than, or we can just say, actually we can just say less than 10. But actually we need a less than or equal to, because we want it to print 10 as well. If we didn't want it to print 10, we would remove that, but we need it. And then we just say print number, and then number equals number, so number equals itself plus 1. Basically, the way this will work is that we have a while loop. It'll start by printing out our number, and then it'll increase it by 1, and then check if it's less than or equal to 10, and then keep printing and increasing by 1 until it equals 10. So if we run this, we get the exact same result. Now, if we did what I had before, which was get rid of the equal sign, it'll only print to 9, because once it's equal to 10, 10 is no longer greater than 10. So this will break out of the loop. So that's why we need this equal sign. There you go. That's the 2 solutions for the challenge problem. Well guys, that's everything that you need to know about loops. I hope you found this video helpful, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye!